Hello and welcome to How To For You. Today I'm going to show you how to do a transmission fluid and filter change on a 2017 or a 4th generation Toyota Rav4. Now my Toyota has about a little over 92,000 miles and I had done the transmission change on it before around 47,000 miles. They do recommend doing it every 60, about there, and go ahead, blow me up in the comments that I'm doing it too soon, but I generally think that anywhere from around the later 40s to 60 is time when you should do it. So I had done it once. This is my second time. And I just wanted to say before I begin showing you the process that you always want to do this on a flat level surface. And specifically, you want to make sure before you start this procedure that you hadn't been driving the car like a lot and that the car is pretty cooled off. Like I hadn't really driven it except from out in the driveway into the parking lot, because with that transmission fluid, as it gets hot, it expands, and when it's cold, it contracts. And that's really important for later to know. So again, just make sure that you hadn't been driving a lot, you're on a flat surface, and then now I'll show you that you want to make sure that it's even when jacking up. To get it level, if you only have jacks and jack stands like myself, you're going to want to make sure it is level and on all 4 jacks. So I'm going to start on the front. This is the front jack point. So go ahead and jack that up and then put 2 jack stands underneath. After you've jacked up the front of the car, you're going to want to jack up the rear. Now the rear jack point is right here below the vehicle. So what I would do is I would go ahead and jack that up and then place 2 jack stands back behind it, making the car level. With all 4 wheels off the ground and level, you now want to take off the front driver's side tire with a 21mm socket using an impact gun. For added safety, you can take the tire off and place it underneath the jacking points just to make sure if something happens. And then what I would also do is I would give the car a few shakes, just making sure that it's not going anywhere, just because again, safety is most important. All right, so from here, you're gonna either wanna get a flathead screwdriver or a pick, kind of like this, and you're gonna wanna take off 4 of these plastic clips, one here, and then there's 2 on the bottom, and this plastic cover covers up the fill plug. So we wanna make sure we do that first. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take this clip here, I'm gonna gently break it, but just gently pull these out, do that here. There's 2 on the top, and then there's 2, there's 1 there, and then there's 1 there. So we're gonna take those off. So before I actually drain the fluid, I'm gonna make sure that I crack open the fill plug. For any fluid job, you always wanna make sure that you crack open the fill plug first before the drain plug. And the reason for that is if you can't actually put in the fluid, but you drain it out, you're gonna be in a world of hurt, and it's gonna be so difficult. So what you wanna do is you wanna get a breaker bar and a 24mm socket, and you're gonna wanna go ahead and crack that open. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that on there, and I got that. Now I'm gonna still leave it on there kind of loose, but I just wanna go ahead and at least loosen it. That way I know I can fill this later. And WS stands for World Standard. So that's the fluid that we're gonna use, but I went ahead and cracked that, and let's move to the next step. So next what we're gonna wanna do is actually drain out the fluid. So what I would recommend is going to some sort of store. I went to Home Depot and got this sort of measuring bucket. It comes in quarts and ounces to measure it. And I'm gonna place like a oil filter pan below that just in case it gets messy. But you're gonna wanna take a 6mm Allen socket, and you're gonna wanna crack that open, and you are gonna wanna drain that out. So drain that out first, and then I'll show you what to do next. So I've got my 6mm here. So you're gonna wanna take that same 6mm, and now that it's starting to drip, you're gonna carefully feel up inside here, and you're gonna take and you're gonna just gently twist to the left here, and there's gonna be more fluid that comes out because there's a little fill plug, and you're gonna wanna just take that and drain it out. And then once you do that, a bunch more fluid comes out. So go ahead and do that and just drain out everything that you have in there. So go ahead and just wait for it to all drip out. Now once it's stopped completely dripping out, I'm gonna wipe down any excess fluid here, and then I'm just going to, with that same 6mm socket bit, I'm just gonna carefully, slowly install that back in. Now I'm gonna do it hand tight, and you might have to use that tool, and I'm also gonna put in that fill plug again. Okay, so I put that green filler plug back in, and it is hard to just do it with your hands. Sometimes you will just gently have to use a wrench, and just don't go hard. The moment you feel it stopping, and then put the drain plug back on. So now that the fluid has been completely drained, there are about 19 of these 10mm bolts all around the transmission pan. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the off. You can use a 10mm socket with an extension here. I'm also going to try to break that and then use an impact wrench just to take them out faster. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to leave probably 2 or 4 on just so it holds the pan. I'm going to leave 1 on each side, and that way when you take it off it won't fall because there is still some liquid in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's a bunch of them. It's pretty straightforward. Again, you just untighten these, take them off, and then drop the pan. I just wanted to say, when you're doing something like this, one of these magnetic mats is going to be your absolute best friend. You got bolts everywhere, and these things are just a lifesaver. And yeah, it helps a lot when doing these procedures. So as you can see, a whole bunch of fluid spilled out. So again, just having that bolt in there and using your other hand to catch it helps it from just spilling everywhere. We're going to want to wipe down this whole area and take 2 10mm bolts that hold this old filter and then put the new filter in. So I'm going to go ahead and just like let this drip a little bit more, get those 2 10mm bolts and switch them out and put the new filter in. One is right here and the other is going to be right there. So you're going to want to take those 2 off, take off the filter, and then we'll put the new one on. Now a lot more fluid kept coming out as well. So again, you're just going to have more and more fluid. But I want to show you something really important because again, with any fluid jobs, you want to make sure you never double gasket. So what happened here is this O-ring was still left inside. So you got to be careful and make sure to take that out. Otherwise, again, you're double gasketing, and that's super dangerous because again, it could cause all sorts of problems. So take that out, and now we're going to install the new filter. So here's the new filter with the part number. There is an O-ring already attached to it. So I would say just leave it on there, and then you're just going to put it back up, attach those 2 screws. So make sure you got the gasket on there for that hole, and then you're just going to want to put these in. I'll hand tight them for now. And you want to torque these 2 bolts down to 67 inch-pounds or 5.5 foot-pound-feet of torque. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And that's that one. So as I'm going along here, I am just making sure I'm adding all my fluid together, because what that does is again gives me that measurement of what I'm looking for and what I need. So I'm just continuously adding in the fluid here, just making sure I get all the right amounts for the measurement. So I would say just keep doing that, putting that in your bucket, and keep making sure you're having an eye on it. Okay, so here is everything that came out of the car. I got about little over 3 liters or 3 quarts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pump that much of the new fluid back in. So about 3 quarts and a little extra. And I'll show you why later. We want to go more than less, but we want to actually add about 4.5 quarts, and then I'll show you the next steps. So what I would do is I would just go around all the contact points here and just very carefully clean all this where you're going to put the new gasket, just going around everything, making sure there's no dirt or anything. So do that. And also this next part, I would go into a more ventilated area, but what you're going to do is take that rag and just clean off all of this crap in here. There's a lot of crud. But also I want you to know that there's 4 magnets here. And again, this holds like the metal part of like the fluid and just like all the dirt and debris. So what we're gonna do is take those magnets off. We're gonna spray it with some brake cleaner, and then we're gonna take off the old gasket and put on the new gasket. So make sure to do that. Really go around there, clean everything off. Just be careful of this plastic too, because it is very delicate. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a plastic trim tool here. Just gonna pull that off, and you can see where these magnets are. When you take them off, they have little like lines and stuff there. So definitely save these magnets and make sure you put them back in the same place later. But let's go ahead and just give it a really good wipe, and then we're gonna spray it with brake cleaner. And again, what that does is just makes sure that later the contact points are much better when you put on the new gasket. So that all looks good and clean, and I definitely approve of that. So we'll take these magnets here, again, just wipe them off, and we'll place them back in the same way. And this just collects anything that comes down. And then here's the last one. So now that that's pretty solid, you'll take that new gasket, you'll just line it up there. And so now we're ready to install it back on the car. So yeah, it's the same reverse process. We're just gonna put all 19 of those bolts back on. And again, torquing it to the same specs, just like those ones for the filter, 67 inch-pounds or 5.5 pound-feet of torque. So I'm not gonna show it, but you get it, put it back on, torque them, and I'll show you what to do next. And I got all my transmission fluid here. Comes in quarts, and you wanna get one of these handy pumps. I believe they just screw up onto the top, and you just literally push down, and you'll push it right into that fill hole. So you'll fill, again, about 4.5 of them, then you'll close it back up, and we'll move on to the next step. Making sure these connections are tight. I'm putting this on here, this in here, and then I'm just gonna screw it onto the bottle. And we're just gonna pump it in. All right, so we're taking off that fill plug here. Here's the first of a few of these. So you're just gonna fill it right in, kind of like so. You're just gonna do that till you go through all 4.5 of them. So, all right, so I've added about 4.5 quarts, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that fill plug back on. I'm just gonna tighten it up here, and I'll give it a quick tightening too with the breaker bar. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on just a little bit snug, and now I'll show you the next step that we're gonna do. Now this next step is really crucial and important, and there are a few ways of doing it, but I'm gonna show you the way that is the thermometer gun way. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna aim your thermometer like right there on that point of the pan for the transmission fluid, and you're gonna cycle through the gears, and once you cycle through them 1 to 2 seconds, probably for a minute or two, you gotta let that fluid warm up, because again, it's all about expanding and contracting. And once it's 107, 108 degrees, you take out the drain plug and then you put it back in. So I'll do that now and we'll go through that. So, all right, so we're now in the car, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my foot on the brake, and I'm gonna go into reverse, neutral, drive, reverse, park, reverse, neutral, drive, and just do that again for about a minute or two, and then we're gonna check that fluid down there. So I'm down here checking the thermometer, and it's only 80 degrees, so I would suggest we keep cycling through the gears and waiting for it to hit 107 to 108. And just so you can see it here, it's a little hard to show. When I'm going here, and we're now at 101, so I think we're just there because it's now showing 105, 106. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to drain out the fluid. And I'm gonna wait for that to trickle. And once that starts trickling, I'm gonna put this cap back in, and then I'm gonna torque it. And there's definitely gonna be that excess, and that's why you wanna put more than less, because more will give you the correct fluid measuring, versus less would give you an inaccurate reading. So it's starting to drip now, so now I'm gonna put the cap back on. And it's gonna be torqued to 35 foot-pound-feet of torque. Turn the car off. You're gonna torque that fill plug back to 29 foot-pound-feet of torque. Next, you'll wanna put your apron and your push clips in. Again, just same thing in reverse, so put those back on. Now just put it back on the tire, and don't forget to torque it to 76 foot-pound-feet of torque. And final stage, what you'll wanna do is you'll want to unjack the back and the front, and make sure it's level again, and then you're good. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.